Every dictatorship has a chance to survive. Only in one case, and that is if at least 70% of the population is turned into angry marching vegetables. It's a grim and not very aesthetic sight, but in general, Russia has nothing left to lose, having started its idiotic. With the war, it lost the right to be considered a civilized country and sank below the savage communities of the Third World. For Russians, there are different feelings. Now I will explain where they come from. But this role as the trash heap of humanity does not bother the Russian Federation in the slightest. It is in this role that Russia feels most comfortable. It's paradoxical, but it's true. But in order to secure this status forever, or at least for a long time, it certainly has to make serious efforts. Poison must be regularly added to the people's blood, delirium. And for this, it must search. From the crypt, the old Kremlin door creaked. From the Kremlin crypt, the most ancient and most malevolent demon of the Kremlin hierarchy has been released again. The old ghoul Patrushev unfurled his leathery wings at the forum, at the All-Russian Forum, the Battle for Minds. He headed the United Russia project for the education and utilization of, I quote, youth. And he talked about how counteraction to the destructive informational influence of the West will be implemented. But before he kicks the bucket, the old vampire Patrushev must, of course, bite as many as possible of the Russian youth so that they can also transmit this poison to their peers through bites. Do everything, of course, under the guise of so-called scripts and traditional spiritual and moral values. I draw your attention once again to the fact that these values have one tiny little problem. The fact is, these values do not exist, and moreover, they never did. Russia was just like all other countries, drunken, debauched, bloody, dark, and had serfdom longer than anyone else. Well, and now these values are being invented in the PPC. It turns out very, very bad. Although it's clear that Rosmolodej has also seriously taken up the matter and is also planning to allocate all of them, of Russian teenagers into the so-called, as they put it, deviant group. Into the deviant group. They will end up there with all the legal consequences. Those who want to preserve dignity, the right to speak, and the right to think. However, I must say the number of such madmen was never large, and it is rapidly decreasing. Although there are also flashes, there are magnificent flashes. Today in St. Petersburg, the trial ended for that very girl, Dasha Kozyreva, who committed, in the eyes of Putin's courts, a terrible crime. She attached a piece of paper with Taras Shevchenko's poems to his monument with tape. The prosecutor valued this villainy at 6.5 years in a penal colony. But it must be said that unlike many others who fell under the steamroller of Putin's justice, the girl conducted herself magnificently. She did not repent. She did not apologize. She said that I dream, of course, of Ukraine reclaiming every inch of its land, including Donbass and Crimea. I believe, she said, that my dream will come true. And someday history will judge everything fairly. But Ukraine, she said, has already won. Won as it is. That's all, she said during her final words. Considering that she has already served time, but she was given almost 3 years in camps, 3 years in a colony, she has left to serve in general, not that long.